The amendment.
Amendment by Wale.
Chair recognizes Mr. Wally to explain his amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this amendment would restrict the Education Savings Account program under SB 2 to families with a household income at or below 85% of the state median income. Members, the income brackets in this legislation go all the way up to 500% of the poverty guidelines, which for a family of four, that income is about $160,000+ a year for that family of four. We should not be subsidizing wealthier families' private school tuition. Members, I urge you to consider this amendment to restrict the program to families that could use it the most. One of the issues with the bill, and as argued throughout the debate today, is to help prioritize low-income students or low-income families or moderate-income families. And I don't support this bill, but if the purpose is to help those families, then we should restrict the amounts for this bill, $1 billion to the families most in need of this proposed legislation, because as I understand it, as I mentioned earlier, there's about a 500% cap on that. And as a matter of fact, I think there's no cap. And so we shouldn't be subsidizing higher income families' private school tuition with tax dollars that are primarily paid by sales tax, because we're using, majority of our budget is being used, is generated by sales tax. And who pays those sales tax? People that go buy goods and services. Low income families that go to the grocery store, they pay a sales tax. So it's a kind of perverse that those same low-income families would be, in essence, paying the private school tuition of the higher-income families. So this simple amendment caps that participation of those families at 85% of the 85% of median income.
Mr. Speaker.
Ms. Turner, for what purpose?
The gentleman yield for some questions.
Does the gentleman yield for questions?
Absolutely.
The gentleman yields.
Thank you, Representative Wally. Excuse me. So your amendment would limit the voucher to 85 families that are at 85% of the median income of the state.
Medium income, yes, sir. That's correct.
All right, and so we heard some dialogue earlier that I'm sure you heard between Representative Frank and me about shouldn't we provide resources to families with less means to be able to send their kids to private schools. It sounds like that's what your amendment would almost ensure. Do I have that correctly?
That is exactly right, Representative Turner. Look, if we're worried about these children that don't have no options, because that's been the argument, then let's help those children, those families that actually would be benefited by this proposed legislation. So, look, the amendment specifically says that we limit this child. The child is a member. This particular child is a member of a household with a total annual income that is at or below 85% of the state median income. So you're exactly right in that exchange. The way as I read the legislation, you have several categories, right? You have children with disabilities, children at 85% of the median income, and then it starts to tail off, but there's still no cap. So it could be that a family at 500% of the federal poverty level could benefit from that, and that's it seems kind of perverse to me.
Yeah, I agree. And so without your amendment, there is no cap. There is no income cap on who can benefit from this in this bill. Is that right?
Absolutely not.
So if you're a very successful person, and God bless those who are, but if you're making a multi-million-dollar a year salary, you would be eligible under this bill without your amendment to draw this ESA to subsidize sending your kids to the most expensive private schools in the state.
That's correct.
Okay, I think you have a great amendment. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Wall.
you.
Gervin Hawkins, for what purpose?
Mr. Speaker, will the gentleman answer a couple questions?
Does the gentleman yield for questions?
Absolutely.
The gentleman yields.
Representative, so we can put it in perspective. When you talk about 85% of the median, what type of income level so people can understand what those parameters are?
So right now, that would be for a family of four at 85%. would be a little over $80,000 a year for that family,
For the whole household?
the whole household.
So,
I mean, I don't want to assume what family situations are, but you could have two parents making $40,000 or one parent making $80,000.
okay, so what I'm thinking about is a couple who may each make 48, 50,000 each. We're talking about 100,000. That family would not qualify?
No. What the amendment does is caps that ESA, that voucher, to families that make under 85%, at or below 85%.
So we're
of
talking
the
about a
median.
household of 4 making less than 80,000,
Correct. Roughly 80,000, yes.
roughly 80,000.
Yes.
So that truly will get the folks that we're saying we want to serve.
That's correct.
And so at the 500%, what is that number? Do you know?
My numbers, and I can stand corrected, is about, for a family of 4 at 500%, is about 160,000.
So about 100, so double.
Correct.
So the current bill now says 160,000, which is double what your amendment does.
Correct.
And so your amendment truly gets to the families that probably is most in need for that support.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Good amendment.
Yes. I was ready for you. Move adoption.
Chair recognizes Dr. Buckley to speak in opposition to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members. This amendment, I believe, does not recognize what the bill already does. The bill prioritizes our special needs kids with an income cap, and then our most economically disadvantaged families earning $67,000 a year or less is second priority. And so we already prioritize those students contemplated, and for that I would respectfully move to table.
So, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker. All right.
Dr. Bonin, Dr. Buckley has already made a motion to table. The chair recognizes Mr. Wally to close on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Look, this amendment is very simple. If we want to help, as been laid out in the layout of this bill, if we want to help moderate to low-income families with perceived choice, and I believe there is choice currently in our ISDs, because particularly in Aldine ISD, we have CTE, we have a CTE high school, we have a PTech high school. We provide many of options for our schools in Aldine ISD. It would behoove us to cap the amount of family income to those to the benefit of this particular legislation, to those families that meet 85% of the median household income. These are the children and families in most need. And so it's very simple. It caps, a hard cap, because there are no caps. You can say that you prioritize them in the legislation, but there's still no caps.
Mr.
A family
Speaker.
up to 500% of the federal
Ms.
poverty
Goodwin,
level
for
can
what
get it.
purpose?
Will the representative yield for questions?
Does the gentleman yield? Gentleman yields.
Absolutely.
So, yes, I also heard Chairman Buckley mentioning prioritization. But if, let's just say for whatever reason, no families in priorities 1, 2, and 3 applied or were accepted, all of the voucher money or ESA money could go to Category 5, which is anybody, essentially, correct?
That's how I understand the legislation. So
So it's a priority, but it's not a requirement.
it's a priority. It has I think it's had 4 standards, right? So you have 85% included in that. First tier are families that have children that might be disabled, and then it subsequently ratchets down from I think 2 to 500, and then 500 is the other designation. So I think, as I understand the legislation too, you would already have to be in private school. I think that's correct. And so,
So I'm also curious, your amendment, does that pertain to each of the categories or just, how
No,
does that work?
we strictly, we renumber actually, we don't do, we do away with categories, basically.
Okay.
What the amendment does is cap the families who can benefit from the legislation at 85, at or below 85% of the state median income.
So you're
So
basically.
it's a hard cap.
So you're basically saying, hey, we are prioritizing with no way to slip through the cracks. We are prioritizing low-income families that right now can't access private education.
We are prioritizing in this amendment to those families that need it the most.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Does the gentleman yield?
Mr. Frank, for what purpose?
Does the gentleman yield for question?
Absolutely.
Gentleman yields.
I just want to clarify the existing bill because it's been misrepresented in the back and forth. There is actually in the current bill a 20% hard cap on that fourth group that you're talking about. So if there's no one, you use the hypothetical, if there is no one in the first three, which is obviously highly unlikely, if there's no special needs, which is the first one, if there's no one under 200%, if there's no one under 500%, if there's no one in that group that uses it, then no one in the top group will use it because there is a hard cap in the bill of no more than 20% of the total funds will go to that group. Are you aware of that?
No more than 20% of what group?
Of the total ESA funds. So
Right.
if there's no one participating, I realize that doesn't keep anyone from getting it, but if there is no one, it encourages the program to make sure that the first in line are the people that you're talking about. But there is a hard cap of 20%. No more than 20% of the money can go there. And the reality is, if we do our job with the advertising, that the people that you want to be served will actually be served first because they are prioritized. They are first in line.
Okay, so then why don't we cap it as this amendment?
Well, I was just,
You know.
I wasn't trying to change the bill. This
Yeah.
bill has been discussed a lot, but you represented that somehow we could end up with all the money to the top ones, and that's simply not the case. And I just wanted to make sure that you and the body knew that that was not the case.
Okay, but that doesn't mean that somebody that makes over $160,000 wouldn't be benefited by this legislation.
I agree, but I was just correcting the back and forth that said that somehow all the money could go to the top, and that's just not the case.
Well, let me.
So I just want, is that, you understand that that is in the bill? The 20% hard cap in the top group is in the bill as it stands right now.
Well, let me answer it. Let me respond this way. Then why have, if the argument is that we want to help the most children in need, then let's help the most children in need. Why are we helping families that could pay for private school tuition anyway?
I think the primary reason is because we want to help all families, and the reality is, if you know.
So we want to help wealthy families too send their kids to private school?
We want to help all families get the education they want. And by the way, currently we are already funding $16,000, $18,000 a year for the wealthiest families that are in public schools. So this could actually, if somebody is in public school and moves out of public school in that wealthy area, it will actually save the state money. Okay? It will
guess
actually save the state money.
I guess at some point, these dollars, if we want these dollars to go to the most in need, we need to draft the bill as it leaves here with the families most in need of the help. So let's cap it at 85. Why are we using tax dollars of hardworking people that pay sales tax? My constituents
we're actually
go
already
to the
doing
grocery
that.
store. Why does my neighbor who has 3 or 4 kids, one household income, working class family as a bus driver, use their tax dollars to send wealthy families, paying wealthy families private school tuition?
I was just trying to make sure that you understood. A, we're already doing that in traditional public schools, and B, I just wanted to make sure that you understood the cap that already is in there, so we weren't
As I understand, that cap
misrepresenting it to the
expires
body.
in 2027. So,
Yeah. Thank you.
Ms.
Mr.
Weiner, for what
Speaker.
purpose?
Will the gentleman yield for some questions?
Does the gentleman yield?
Yes.
Gentleman yields.
Representative Wally, we heard a lot of conversation on this bill during the layout about how the goal was to provide low-income families access to private schools. Is that correct?
That's, as I sat in my desk listening intently to every word of the layout and the amendment process, that's exactly what I heard.
So if that is truly the goal, if the goal is truly to provide that access to low-income families and not to provide a tax subsidy to wealthy families, is there any reason to oppose your amendment?
Not at all.
Thank you.
I close. Move adoption.
Mr. Wally sends up an amendment. Dr. Buckley moves to table. The question is on the motion to table. If you are in favor of the amendment, vote no on the motion to table. If you are opposed to the amendment, vote yes on the motion to table. A record vote has been requested. The clerk will ring the bell. Show Mr. Wally voting no. Show Mr. Busey voting no. Show Mr. Harris voting aye. Show Dr. Buckley voting aye. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? There being 83 ayes and 57 nays, the motion to table prevails. The following amendment, the clerk will read the amendment.
Amendment by Busey.